Romania Black, and it doesn't have high fructose corn syrup, so it's better, right? We are on episode 15 of Steins Gate Zero, and it feels like it's been forever since I recorded episode 14. But yeah, so Daru and Suzaha, if you recall, have decided that they're going to make a time machine without Okarin knowing, and that will surely lead to good things. But the plot has kicked up since episode 13 of this series, and we need to dive in and see what's going to be happening next. I honestly have been having withdrawals from Steins Gate because I've been doing it every other week, and then I was traveling, and then I'm back, and so it's just like getting caught up. I'm like, no, I need to go ahead and watch. So that's where I'm at. I do have some things from the English dub that I want to talk about with you all, and we did have a comment that I wanted to address from episode 14 from Alexandra Q, who said, right out of the gate, I have to say that Suzaha and Daru going behind Okabe's back to rebuild the time microwave is so problematic. And basically said that, you know, they understood why Suzaha was doing it, and they would understand why Maho was getting along because they've got this whole thing about being in Kurisu's shadow and all that. But they said Daru doing it feels, well, like the biggest betrayal. Yeah, I would get Suzaha and I get Maho, but Daru agreeing to do it, knowing what Okabe has been through with Mayuri and with Makise, is... these are choices that are being made, so we're going to see where they go. But with that, I did watch the English dub right before coming on to record this episode, and there were a couple things I want to talk about. I don't know why the English dub and it goes with the Japanese sub as well, but why Daru? The English dub had, when Daru and Suzaha were getting on the Zoom call with Maho, he starts out, the first line he says is, "Hey, hot stuff, you're looking sexy." I'm like, don't you have a girlfriend, Daru? I'm like, stop. This is Maho. You have a girlfriend. I know now why Suzaha is worried that you're not going to get things accomplished. I was like, what is going on? So that was weird. That was very weird. But with that, they established that Okabe is considering transferring to the university. They say in the English dub, the professor, he was like, oh, he's transferring in September. And then he comes back and says, I didn't say what year, but it's kind of being established, right? Another thing was that Amadeus, when talking to Maho, Amadeus answering the question of, would you build the time machine? And Amadeus is like, yes, I would build it, but would I use it? That is the conundrum. And it's kind of like, you know, once you build it, you know, it's there, the temptation. So I do like the fact that Amadeus is, you know, directly considering it, though, and wondering, like, would they use it or not? So it's going to be interesting to see what we get out of that. And then based on Suzaha versus Kagari, it seemed like someone was using the metal upa that she had gotten from Mayuri as like a means to get Kagari to attack whoever she thinks has stolen it from her. So that was an interesting little tidbit that the English dub kind of honed in on. And then, yeah, Suzaha realizes that Kagari was brainwashed before they even traveled in the time machine. That leads us to believe that whoever brainwashed her in the future is probably someone who has been in control of her in the past. So what do we do with that? And then finally, Suzaha did say this line. She recognized, she says, I should have known it was the guy who attacked all of my fellow Valkyries. And she said, quote, the man from the bureau, Professor. Well... if my theories from last week are correct, I'm not going to be surprised, but we're just going to have to see. This series feels like it's setting things up and in creating deliberate red herrings and then creating things that you're like, oh no, that's it. So it's like, what do we do with all of this information? So yeah, that's where we're at right now, but I am super excited to be diving into episode 15. It feels like it's been so long and we're just chugging right along. So let's not waste any time. Okay, so with that being said, we are going to go ahead and get started. We're not watching the OP yet because I've been told by the mods I need to wait a little bit. So with that being said, we're going to start episode 15 of Steins Gate Zero. And we are going to be doing that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Well, okay. This episode was really good. I was a little bit worried about it at first for where it was going to go, but then it got really good at the end, and I was like, oh. And the moment we had the flashback with Suzaha, the tone shift was completely different. I was like, what? What? So, yeah, we need to talk about this. We need to get into this episode because at first I was like, is this all just going to be... Because I'll be honest, Steins Gate Zero has run the gambit sometimes of me being like, okay, are we going to get to something that's actually relevant to the plot of the story, or are we kind of just spinning our wheels in circles in places? And there have been moments in the plot with Daru and, you know, Mayuri's friends and stuff where I'm like, okay, what is this contributing to the overall story, though? But in this episode, we actually do get that, where Suzaha's concerns about her parents, you know, being a couple, which has been something we've all kind of talked about from the get-go, kind of come to a head in this episode. And thank goodness they end up being okay, because for a hot second I was like, with the lies that Suzaha was telling, I was like, this could lead to her lies actually coming true, and they ended up not. So that was... Thank goodness. And then we are setting some stuff up with Okarin that I'm a little bit concerned about. So we're going to talk about that. But anyway, we need to dive into this episode because we have a lot going on. So we're going to pull up the screenshots and just walk through this in chronological order because that's what we have to do here in 3, 2, and 1. And the one thing, we bookend the episode with Kagari, both in the dream that Suzaha has and then in the actual reality above the skyscraper. I'm going to be honest with you all. The Kagari plot line, the subplot line, I've not been as impressed with, just because I feel as if it's just a convenient way to get Kagari out of the way. She's been brainwashed and she's gone to be... But she found her metal upa, so why does she care? I mean, unless they still have the metal upa, but I thought she grabbed it. I'd have to go back and look at episode 14, but... I feel like, though, I don't exactly know. I feel like she's such a weird plot element because I like her as a character, but then she's brainwashed. But then, like, how does the brainwashing work? But then why is she being targeted and used? Why is she standing on top of a skyscraper in broad daylight? It's a weird element, and I'm not entirely on board with it in the plot. Like, she's standing very conspicuously on top of a skyscraper. I'm like, girl... So I don't really know what to think of Kagari and all of this. I'm hoping they're going to do something with her that will be more relevant to the plot, but I'm sure they will. We just have to get there. That's what I'm talking about. Sometimes Steins Gate Zero spins its wheels on getting to things, and I want it to get to them faster, but... Overall, that's probably my only complaint about the episode is that Kagari is a weird plot element, but the rest of it was great. So we need to get into the rest of it. And that and Ferris, this was the other thing that we'll talk about, which is Ferris and the photo. And I'm going to bring this up because we might as well talk about it now. I love that Ferris brings the strawberry shortcake and that they're just eating it. They're like, who needs to worry about World War III when we have strawberry shortcake? I guess, okay, so Ferris knows that Suzaha is from the future because she knows about the time machine and she's asking about it. Like, how much longer do we have to use it? And she's like, about a week. It's glitching up here on the rooftop, you know, just ominously. So I'm assuming that Ferris knows that Suzaha's mom is Yuki, right? I get nervous when all these characters know that Yuki is Suzaha's mom, because it'd be so easy to spill the beans that Suzaha is her daughter and possibly mess things up. But I get by the end of the episode, it sort of implies that Yuki knows. It implies that she knows Suzaha is her daughter, maybe, and she's okay with that. I mean, that's so wild. I mean, Suzaha is lucky that her parents do love each other in real life. And it's not like, I always think back to Dragon Ball Z where there's a character from the future that comes and is like, I need to make sure my parents don't know. But here's the difference. In Trunks' case, in Dragon Ball Z, his parents kind of don't really like each other, but then they get together in like a spur of the moment thing. And then they end up liking each other after the fact. So Trunks is very wise to like not let anybody know about that because he's afraid it would throw off his entire existence. Here, I think it does work fine or much better because Suzaha's parents naturally like each other from the get-go, and this just kind of cements that they're meant to be in a way with Suzaha being there. So it's a lot more forgiving with the plot because you're like, okay, well, they do like each other. It's just I get so nervous with time travel stories that, like, what if you throw it off? What if it ends up erasing your existence? And then the whole photoshopping that Ferris did made me go, wait, what? And then you find out it's a lie, and it's like, okay. I'm glad that we settled that because I was getting really nervous in this episode with all of the lies. Really nervous. So yeah. So she's like, this is my treasure of mine. And we find out that Daru took this photo of her with her mom before her mom was horrifically gunned down. We're going to talk about that. Horrifically. Like, that was one of the most gruesome scenes in this whole series. I was like, it came out of nowhere. I was like, oh my God. So it definitely paints Suzaha as a more tragic, complicated, traumatized character, and like why she's so hell-bent on altering the future. So yeah, you can kind of see from this picture, what I really like is that like Suzaha and her mom Yuki have like the same bangs, and like, but then the rest of it's like Daru's hair color and Daru's eye color, and it's super cute. Like, man, we'll get to that scene. We'll get back to that scene when we get to the end of the episode. She's like, why do you look so grumpy? She's like, I don't remember. That's such a cool thing is like, yeah, when you're a kid, like you may not remember why you had a certain expression like on your face, or maybe, in her case, it's, they're trying to take a picture of a happy memory of her and her mom, but Suzaha's kind of sad because, the whole dystopian thing. The whole post-apocalyptic world thing, no big deal. But she maybe doesn't see the point of trying to create this happy memory amidst this really troubling time frame that she lives in. But I think that it's a good message because, we ourselves live, depending on where you are in the world, in potentially turbulent times. So you may not think, what's the point of this? But then you look back and you're like, oh, I'm glad I have this photo. I'm sure now Suzaha's happy she has this photo with her mom because her mom's not present. Like, this is a memory of her that she has saved. So it's important. And I'm glad that she has it printed out because, phones can get destroyed and data can be lost. And she's like, I don't remember why I had this expression, but I do remember like how I felt about, her. And then she ends up seeing her mom there. So yeah, I feel like Yuki is kind of on to there's something more between, Suzaha with her and Daru, but she plays along with it. But by the end of the episode, like I said, I think she kind of figures it out. And she's like, which she's a cosplayer. She kind of knows, but maybe she doesn't. Maybe she's just nice and realizes that there's, these emotions Suzaha has that she's letting out. And she's just a caring enough person to get it. Maybe she senses a bond between them, like with Mayuri and Kagari. I'd be interested to know what you all think down below. I think she knows that Suzaha is her daughter. I think she knows, but she's just like, you don't want to tell me, that's fine, whatever. If anything, here's the deal. If this episode does anything at all, it completely alleviates Yuki of all suspicion. Like, there is no way, in my mind, at this point in the story, there is no way that I think Yuki is responsible for Kagari's kidnapping, for Kagari's brainwashing, for like them attempting to get in and get things when they broke in the first time. I feel as if all those other instances, like with the hurt hand and the cut on her hand, I think those are all red herrings. I think that at this point, the fact that they are not even suspecting Yuki and that she is so like gung-ho with Daru, I feel like it kind of puts her off the hook, like she's not responsible, and it places all the blame on Judy. Like, our good friend Judy is now prime suspect number one because she's conveniently been absent from the story. Now, I could be wrong, and this could be the ultimate betrayal, and Yuki turns out to be working for the other side, quote unquote, and trying to like deceive them all. But I feel like this episode, if it does anything, it takes all of the suspicion off of Yuki and places it on Judy. Judy is prime suspect number one now, and Yuki is, no, she's just, I feel like that was a misdirect, that was a red herring, which it's kind of weird that they would go to such lengths to put the red herring out there in the first place, but I don't know, when we get to the end of the series, we'll talk more about like the overarching, like overall thoughts about this, but yeah, I think it takes all suspicion off of her in this episode. She's like, I wonder if he's feeling under the weather or something. Yuki mainly just wanted to hang out with him. She wanted to see him. But, she was even kind of having a little insecurity about like, well, do I need to contact him? Maybe he's busy. Maybe he doesn't want to hang out with me. The truth of the matter is he's been working on this time microwave and hasn't had time to see her, which I wanted to talk about with you all. Let's get past the OP. I would love to watch it, but the mods have not given me the okay yet. They will soon, I'm sure. So yeah, so before we get to that though, this cracked me up so much because they're like, try not to miss her. Okay, so whenever they were talking about Maho, I misunderstood what Okarin says here because he's like, try not to miss her. And I thought he was being a little insensitive, being like, oh, well, she's not a big deal. No, he was saying, try not to miss her. Don't forget, she's so tiny. And here's the funny thing. I know a student that is on one of the teams that I coach. She is that small. Like with this one student, she's like 4'7", and she's like a tiny little person, and she's just really petite. And this would exactly be what happened to them. But God, that's funny. Like her carrying around the tiny briefcase and then having all the science stuff in this big one and walking beside it. Hilarious. I freaking love that. Also, this animation is kind of weird. Like, I think it... Gumby Okarin. Look at Gumby Okarin. I want to take a screenshot of that real quick because that is actually hilarious. Gumby Okarin is now my new favorite Okarin. So yeah, also marbled pork cutlet sandwiches sound incredible. Pork cutlet in general. I am Yuri from Yuri on Ice. I will gain 1,000 pounds from eating that if I go to Japan. So I also want to talk about Mayuri in this episode. I feel really badly for Mayuri. I feel so bad for Mayuri. I feel like she is really trying to connect with someone, and Okarin is caught up in this whirlwind of getting accepted to the university and moving to America and trying to move forward, that it is heartbreaking to me because he is losing track of one of the things he fought so hard to keep alive, and that is Mayuri. Like one of the people, not things, but one of the people he worked so hard to keep in this existence is Mayuri, and she wants to be with him because he's her friend and he's part of her life, and he's in this process of moving forward. He's leaving her behind, and she was the whole reason he had this world line even exist. So it's like, it makes me very sad, and we're going to talk about it here in a second, but I feel for Mayuri because she's nervous and feeling distraught about Kagari being missing and has been missing for a while. She doesn't know what's going on. She doesn't know what Daru and Suzaha know, which they've not told Okarin because they know he would freak out. And they've not told Mayuri or anyone else because they know they would freak out. But then Okarin is like, well, we've looked for Kagari, but we can't find her, so gotta move forward, which is still, that part's kind of weird to me, to be honest with you all. But regardless, and so Mayuri is just kind of left in the crosswinds, and it's like, in the crosshairs, and it's like, I feel for Mayuri a lot. I'm going to feel for her even more when we have this conversation with Okarin even further, and Okarin's like, yeah, Daru and them we're looking for her. And that's when Maho's like, where is Daru? And she's like, something important. I need him to work on this time microwave. So yeah. So then Suzaha confronts Daru about not spending enough time with Yuki. And I was like, dude, when she's like, put your hand over your heart. She didn't say both hands. She didn't say put them on your breasts, your chesticles. She said your heart. Heart's up here. So I got really nervous when Suzaha made up this lie. Like 2 lies. Not only did she make up one, she made 2 to try to convince him. She's like, Mom was talking all friendly to some other guy. And I got a little nervous because I was like, well, what if that means that she gets chummy with this other guy and forgets about Daru? And he's like, oh, well, it's probably nothing. She's probably just asking for help or something. And she's like, what if Mom ends up marrying someone else? And he's like, it was probably just some guy asking for directions. And then she's like, I could never be born. And he's like, well, you're still here. And then she points out this picture. Now, that should have been the sign. I didn't even think about it. But in the moment, I was so like, oh God, that's not good. I didn't realize she has it on her phone instead of the actual little print of the picture. And so with it being on her phone, that means that Feyres edited it. And in the moment, I was so caught off guard by her being faded, I was like, oh shit, that it didn't dawn on me that it wasn't on the actual picture, it was on the phone. And I was like, oh, okay. If she'd actually pulled out the photo, that part's not faded. Feyres just used Photoshop on this part here. But that made me nervous. That legit made me go, oh crap. What if she does fade out? What if this does happen? What if she ceases to exist? And it kind of brings up this conundrum with time. I love that he says it's like Back to the Future. He kind of looks like Christopher Lloyd there for a hot second. He's like, just like Back to the Future. And she's like, Dad, you have zero confidence. You lack confidence instead of making the first move. You're waiting and hoping for her to. Am I wrong? And I feel for Daru. I felt for him a lot. Him and Mayuri, I felt for quite a lot in this. And Suzaha. God, Suzaha. But I felt for him because I totally get where he's coming from. Making the first move is really nerve-wracking. And being rejected is really nerve-wracking. And maybe he just doesn't feel like he has to in the moment. I did feel nervous at this point, and I think that like them trying to intervene and help him be confident is a great example of just don't try to influence things to affect the future beyond what you know you are capable of, or it could have a dastardly result. Because I mean, they were trying to do something nice, but at the same time, like if she hadn't been so forgiving and willing to go at it again for date round 2, and if Daru hadn't been like so gung-ho and got the confidence to call her and ask her out again, it could have literally ruined their relationship and then affected her not being born. So like her trying to tempt the present and change things to influence the future, like this could have had a very, very negative effect. And so I'm glad it didn't. I'm glad it didn't go that route, but I was a little scared for a moment. I was like, you're going to make this really bad. This is not going to be a good situation. Yeah. And she's like, what does she say there? No future awaits those who refuse to take action. That's something that you told me a long time ago. Which I feel like that's been her big motivator to convince Okarin to take action to try to go back and change the past to influence the future. And now that we've seen her literally watch her mother die in front of her horrifically, I can see why she's pretty adamant about this happening. It's so tragic because Okarin has witnessed Mayuri dying how many times now? We've lost track from the other world line. So Suzaha can relate to Okarin in knowing what it feels like to watch a loved one like die in front of you. And it's motivated her to try and make that not happen. But Okarin is just so disillusioned from trying to do what Suzaha wants to do so many times and not seeing it work out that he just doesn't see any hope left in it. And whereas Suzaha's like, no, I've not given up yet. There's a chance we can still change this. And she's willing to keep trying. She's not given up like Okarin has. She's like, you need to confess. And Daru's like, please don't make me do this. I love all of them are there as part of this squad to try and help him. And Feyres as well. So, and they all have different approaches. So, okay, in there she's like, did you use the photo? So, yeah, in the moment during the reaction, I was like, why are you guys winking about that? This is really serious. But now it makes sense. So, yeah. And they're like, our mission will continue. Operation objective concluding their date. You're going to confess your feelings to Amana Yuki. And he's like, oh, confess. He's like, what? He's like, that's crazy talk. She's like, that's not what I want to hear. Try again. Poor Daru. I feel for him. Like, you can't hurry love and you can't force it. So we'll get back to each of their motivations because I thought that was really fun. But then we go back to, that's the thing about Steins Gate Zero. Last episode, Suzaha was talking about how there was this professor that brainwashed people and tortured her friends. And we assume that it's this professor, and then we get to this professor, and he's like, oh, ho, ho, ho. And now I don't trust him. Now it all feels like an act. I have no trust in this man anymore, which is sad because he used to be really funny, and now I'm just like, you're a liar. I feel like Will Ferrell in Elf, where he's like, you sit on a throne of lies. You smell of cheese. You smell of meat and cheese, sir. So yeah, he's trying to joke about, Maho. He's trying to basically lure Okarin back with Maho as the bait, and she's just like, I need you to stop. So he's had Okarin create this report and to try and see if it's good enough to get him to come, overseas. And then the professor's like, modesty isn't always a good virtue in practice. That felt like a giant ominous stamp, like big old red flag. Like, what do you mean that modesty isn't a good virtue, sir? Like, it had like a ominous feeling to it. And if this is the same guy who's brainwashed Kagari, not getting good vibes. Not from this man at all. He's like, especially if you're hoping to go far in America. So he's like, I'll put aside some time to read this report of yours. And if it's good enough, you might be able to transfer before you know it. I hate that so much because it's like Suzaha is sitting here being like, we have a week left before we use this time machine, before we can possibly alter the future and prevent World War III. And Okarin, who is like, I need to move on. And she's like, well, what about the future in which everyone dies? And he's like, I can't sacrifice Mayuri. He's working so hard to keep from being tempted by Suzaha and the time machine that he's willing to possibly go overseas so that he can forget about it all and move forward. But in that same vein, he is literally abandoning the person that he fought so hard and is avoiding Suzaha because he says that she would die otherwise. You're leaving her behind. Like, and I know that Okarin's like, well, Mayuri deserves better and just her living is enough. But I'm like, sir, you're missing the forest for the trees. Like, Mayuri wants you because you're her friend and you're like a brother to her. Like, what are you doing? Just, it makes me want to grab him and shake him gently, but not too gently. So yeah. So then Mayuri calls and like, girl is throwing you lifeline after lifeline. She's like, we're gathering at the lab right now. It'd be cool if you could join us. And he's like, sorry, I can't come. And I'm like, dude. And I get that he's trying to move forward, but like, you need to also not forget the people that you care about. And she's like, okay, no problem. Just, that's too bad. Keep it up, Okarin. Like, Mayuri wants to see you. She's just being too nice and not being outright because she doesn't want to make you worry about her. But like, dude, the writing is on the wall. Meanwhile, the crazy thing is Maho ends up going over there. So he ends up staying, waiting on the professor to read. I don't know why Okarin had to stay there and wait for the professor to read his paper. Did he just sit in that lounge sipping Darjeeling until the professor came back from reading the paper? Like, why couldn't he have gone to the lab and then gone back? But I don't know. Because Maho went to the lab, so I don't know. It would have been weird. I guess it probably would have made Mayuri feel worse if he told her, no, I don't have time, and then he showed up with Maho. That probably would have made her feel a little bit worse because she would have been like, but Mayuri's too nice. She would have never been petty like that. I would have been petty. If you told me you couldn't show up and then you showed up with somebody else, I'd be like, oh, really? Oh, I see how it is. But Mayuri's a saint. So she's a bit different. So we have Feyris saying you've got to know all the good places to eat if you're going to be popular. And Feyris sets them up with the restaurant and the manners and the restaurant skills. And then Mayuri is like, well, you need to wear something different than your usual and kind of cosplay. She'll like that. It might make her heart flutter. And he's like, yes. Ruka's the one that's like, you need to understand a woman's heart. You need to know exactly, what she's going to find attractive. And Moika's like, keeps the conversation fun and exciting. And there's a little bear emoji. Freaking love Moika. I freaking love Moika. Love her. Love her in Zero. She's great. I'm glad she's doing significantly better than in the OG timeline or world line. So yeah, poor Daru. Poor Daru. And then Maho shows up to basically hook his brain up to some ASMR hypnotism to get him to believe that he's going to be successful. Bless him. Our poor man Daru. I feel for him so much. I want to get a screenshot of that real quick because I feel for him. Also, Gumby Okarin is, like I said, favorite Okarin. So, anyway, they get all this set up, and then he meets Yuki, which I'm glad we did not have to endure too much secondhand embarrassment. It wasn't bad, but you could tell from the moment he's like trying to be Stefan, from Family Matters, that you can tell Yuki wants Urkel. She's like, Laura. Honestly, I don't know if you've seen the show Family Matters. It was on in the U.S. in the late 90s. I loved it. The Jaleel White plays Urkel, and he's the voice of Sonic the Hedgehog from the original series. He's great. Jaleel White, his voice, But, like, I had a low-key crush on Urkel when I was in junior high. But Yuki is like Laura. She was the main character in Family Matters, and she fell in love with Urkel, the big dweeb, and he tried to, like, use this machine to become, like, Stefan, who was, like, the cool version, and she has a similar reaction to Stefan versus Urkel. She's like, oh, you're really cool, but I like the dork. I like the guy that's himself. That's who I like, not this facade, which is what it is. And that's exactly what happens with Daru. It's just a facade. It's not really him. And that's not what she wants. She's a cosplayer. She's a dork. If she wanted to hang out with him and liked him from the start, it was because of who he was, not because of, him trying to be somebody different. Yeah, that's not her at all. And there's a part of me that I totally get it. Like, people always talk about, like, the nice guy and everything, but here's the thing. Like, if you're just genuine, then there is someone out there that will appreciate you for who you are. Now, finding that person may take a while. You may never find them. Honestly, you may never cross paths with them, but there is somebody out there who will like you for who you are. And you should never be with somebody who doesn't accept you at your zaniest or doesn't accept you at your geekiest. Like, you shouldn't be with them if they're going to be like that, because that's not cool. So, yeah. I love that Daru, he tries to be suave and it doesn't work out for him. And then his version of confidence is calling her back and saying, let's redo that. And I'm going to be myself. And then it goes 1,000 times better. But yeah, so Suzaha thinks it's going to work out, and then it immediately fails. So we don't get the title card until, like, nearly halfway through the episode. Asymptotic line. Or recognize asymptote. I want to find out, what is asymptote? Yeah, here we go. Somebody else has looked this up as well. Oh, here we go. So Merriam-Webster definition. Where we get? That one's not going to give me much. We need to go. Oh, Cambridge. Hello, Cambridge. An asymptotic line is a line that gets closer and closer to a curve as the distance gets closer to infinity. Oh, interesting. I wonder, is there any kind of, like, article about... Okay. Says, informally, the term asymptotic means approaching a value of a curve arbitrarily closely as some sort of limit is taken. A line or curve that is asymptotic to given curve C is formally let x be a continuous variable tending to some limit. They're talking about numbers and functions here. Ha. Okay, but then there's asymptote. Okay, so it shows us, actually, I'll show you all on the screen here. An asymptote, it's like these lines coming together. It's like the asymptotes are these lines coming together as it curves. Okay, nice. I'm guessing that that's just like the two of them coming together. I'm guessing that's what's representing, is the two of them meeting there, that they're the asymptotes. Perhaps it's referring to that. The recognition of that line, of them coming together. I think that that's what it means. Y'all can comment down below if you think it's something different. But I feel so bad for Daru in this moment, because he's convinced that she is not going to get with him because of his appearance and because he views himself so poorly. And I'm like, dude, she's like approached you for a reason. Like, because I felt bad for him. He's like, I'm all sweaty and I'm a big guy. Why would she be with me? She's so pretty. And it's like, no, because you're kind of like a dork, and she likes that. And she likes you being shy and kind of dorky. Like she's into that. They said she liked bears. Like, she's all about it. So I definitely, it makes me so sad that Daru is so insecure at first, but it makes me so happy that he like gets confident at the end to address her and like call her back and stuff. Like, that part was nice. I liked that a lot. Yeah. And just, I felt so bad. And then Suzaha reveals that she's like, I kind of lied to you, and the whole picture thing was photoshopped. and I lied. I was trying to like push you into like contacting her. And I like that Daru eventually recognizes, he's like, well, I knew that you were lying, but I also just kind of wanted somebody to push me in the right direction. And we're going to talk about that in a second. But first, this post-apocalyptic hellscape, like this scene in this episode came out of nowhere. Like, the buildings are all dilapidated and terrible and torn down. There's Yuzu. She has the cute little bow. And she's like, hey, Mom. I don't know what's more disturbing. The fact that she was running towards her mom like, hey, Mom. And there's like an AK-47 strapped to her shoulder like it's nothing. I don't know if that's more disturbing. No, it's probably the fact that a drone appeared behind her and she jumped in front of her daughter and gets gunned down. And the fact that they kind of blur it, but you still see everything in graphic detail. The fudge, y'all. Oh my God. And then this scene, like, as she's falling, that's terrifying. That is absolutely terrifying. The fudge. Oh my God. Yeah. And then showing her like firing at the drone and you can barely see it. Like, it's very disturbing to see like them show this child like having this moment of violence, but it's justified because her mom was just gunned down in front of her. That's crazy. It's moments like those where you see the results of Okarin's decision to not try and alter the past. You see the results of like, because Okarin tries to dismiss the World War III line where he's like, doesn't bother me, doesn't affect me. I just want to keep my Yuri alive. No. But we've seen through the flashbacks with Suzaha, and we've seen Mayuri and Daru in the flashbacks, and things are not great for them. So yeah, they're alive, but because of your actions, like, what is this future that they're from? Like, it's horrifying. So it gives justification of why, because last episode, when I talked about Alexander Q's comment in the intro, it's like you get why Suzaha's doing it, but Daru feels like betrayal. But now seeing this, it's like, well, if this is the result, because we just went through an episode of trying to get Daru and Yuki together, but the result is going to be she's going to be gunned down horrifically like this, then yeah, I'm kind of into why Daru's like, let's build the time microwave, let's do this, because we don't have a choice. That's crazy. That was such a wild scene. And then we have Daru in front of the time machine as Suzaha like comes to talk to him. That time machine is like the most ominous thing because we only have a week left to use it. And it's trying to figure out like, well, what do we need to do to get Okarin on board? And Okarin right now seems like he's the least likely to get on board with this idea. He is trying so hard to move away from it, but they're all kind of starting to center around it that it's setting stuff up. It's setting stuff up. But yeah, I love that she's like, I just want a future where it's more peaceful. And in my future, I wasn't around you too much because there wasn't a chance. And she's like, I just wanted, like this part here, she's like, I just wanted to be next to both of you. I just wanted to see you and to have those moments. And then you see like freaking Land Before Time version of her mom's arm there. And then she's sitting there holding her mom like as she's sobbing. Oh my God. That is absolutely horrifying. Ugh. But yeah, and Daru gets it. He's like, I've just, I've been dreading because I'm insecure. And he's like, I just needed somebody to push. He's like, I was being selfish. I wanted somebody to give me a push. I wanted somebody to convince me it was the right thing, even though he knows his daughter's standing right before him. He's like, I need to apologize. And I love that he calls her and he's like, let's redo this. It's so sweet. And of course, Suzaha follows to see how it's going to go. I love that she's like, I can't compete with you, Dad. Like, her dad shows such bravery in that moment, and she's like, I want to be like you. Meanwhile, Maho has all the pieces out to make the phone microwave. It's going down. And the crazy thing is, Okarin is kind of sealing his own fate because he's avoiding the lab because he doesn't want to be, it's like the ultimate paradox, right? He's avoiding the lab because he doesn't want to think about the lab or think about Makise or think about the time machine. So he's moving away from it. He's like, I'm getting as far away from it as I can. The problem is, in doing so, he's allowing Maho and Daru and Suzaha to create this. If he came back to the lab right now and saw that, he could chuck it all and stop it. But he's not. So he's essentially creating his own fate by not getting involved in going back there, which is wild. Absolutely wild. So yeah, she's like, good grief. What the heck am I supposed to do on my own? Well, girl, you're not going to be on your own for very long. I feel like next episode we're going to get into that. So yeah, we get Daru's little date. Look at him. Look at him. I get it. I could see it. Daru's not my type at all, but I could see why a girl would like Daru. I could see why, because he's earnest and he's nice and he's kind of a goof, Some girls like guys that are like, can lift you up and throw you over a shoulder and like can catch you like something or whatever. And some girls like a guy that tries, that he puts in the effort, even if he doesn't succeed. And like him trying to win her the crane game, it's the thought that counts. And she likes that. So like, he tries to win her something. And then what girl does not want a guy to like say she looks beautiful? And also, damn, Yuki also, that snatched waist with that big like magical girl staff and everything. Jealous. Envy. Body envy. And then yeah, they eat the curry and Daru can't handle it. That's where Suzaha gets it from. That's where Suzaha gets it from. When she did the curry eating contest, she don't get it from Daru. She gets it from Yuki. Love that. That's a nice little callback. And then when they go to watch the movie, I liked that at first he's like kind of like shy because he grabbed her hand. But then when he puts it back down, she makes the move and he's all about it. It's compromise. That's what you gotta do. Yeah. So then, after the date, he's like, I'm glad I could hang out with you 2 days in a row. And then she's like, I think you're wonderful when you act like yourself. And that's kind of the thing. Like, Okarin has spent all this time, like, Okarin's been acting like someone else. And he's not embracing his inner mad scientist. And it's causing all these issues. And Daru almost did that here, where he tried not to embrace his otaku dweeb self. And here he embraced it. And good things happened, If Okarin just embraces his inner mad scientist, good things can happen, So that's the lesson of today's episode. So yeah, and then when he says here, I like that Suzaha is watching them being like, come on, Dad. And he says, I think of you and feel moi moi kyun. Now, I had to look up what moi moi kyun means. And it's from a show, and they use it in maid cafes a lot. But it says it's a magical set phrase that only a cute maid in a maid cafe can use. It's one of the otaku words that describes having gotten excited to see a cute girl or a cute scene. It doesn't have sexual meanings. Kyun is an onomatopoeia that describes a feeling like crushing your heart up when you fall in love at first sight or come across something cute. So basically, he's like, I look at you and I feel like my heart is exploding from the cuteness. That's awesome. I love that. I love that Daru like says that, and it's kind of dorky, and she feels the same way. Oh, I love that. I thought she kissed him at first, but I'm glad that instead she was like, in Japan, they're not, kissing is like a big deal. And also totally on board with there not being PDA. So I get it. But yeah, and then I love that Suzaha is just like, my parents are dorks. And I'm glad it worked out. Oh, so good. So good. She's like, thank goodness. Yeah, and then she's like, hey, how you doing? And Daru's like, oh my God. Oh, that's so cute. I love it. So yeah. And then meanwhile, Okarin has been drinking the tiniest cup of espresso known to man. The tiniest cup of espresso in this moment, waiting on, oh yeah, and then Mayuri sends him a text message. Do you think we can meet today? There's so much I want to talk about. Girl is throwing you a lifeline. Girl is saying, please, I want to see you. I miss you. Can you please? And Mayuri's too nice. she's too nice to just come out and say, I miss seeing you. Why don't we get together again? She's too nice to say that. So she's just trying to like gently say like, hey, you should come by the lab. Hey, I'd like to meet up. Hey, what's going on? Like, she's being too nice. She just needs to be direct. But Mayuri is not a direct person. She's too nice for that. And I'm waiting for, here's the thing. Back in episode 23, when Okarin was like, I can't go back, and Mayuri was like, smacked him across the face. Like, that's what we need. We need Mayuri to smack him across the face, like she did back in episode 23 of OG Steins Gate, but she's not been pushed that far yet. But I'm like, girl, let him have it. Because, yeah, he's going to end up not going to see her because of the professor. Yeah. And I feel like what's interesting is the professor, I don't think at this point in time is actively trying to sabotage Okarin from changing the world line and from stopping him, because I think he's the professor that Suzaha is talking about in the future. I don't think that he knows that Okarin is, you know, trying to sabotage all that yet. I don't think he has an idea. I think if he finds out, he's going to definitely move forward with what he's doing, but I think he is actively sabotaging any chance to save the World War III World Line in this moment without even realizing it. He's like, and he says, work at the hospital has been one problem after another. Oh, I'm sure, because you're probably involved with Kagari. And he's like, I looked at your report, but I think it's interesting. So, you know, if you want to stay, I've got some time to answer some questions. And then I'm mad at Okarin because you just saw Mayuri's text. Like, the professor's busy doing hospital stuff. You could easily come back and just be like, yeah, I got somewhere to go tonight. Let me go over and hang out tonight. I got plans tonight I need to take care of. I'll come back tomorrow and we can talk about the paper. He could easily have said that. But instead he's like forsaking Mayuri to stay here and being selfish. And I'm like, you went through all of that to do what? To leave her on hold? To leave her like living without you? Like, if you love someone, then saving you but then abandoning you, what's the point? Like, just, Okarin, I need him slapped. I need some sense slapped into him immediately. Yep. And so then, yeah, Suzaha and them on the roof. What does she say there to Yuki? She says, I couldn't wish for a better family. I mean, I feel like, in my mind, I think that Yuki knows that she's her daughter because, I mean, one, they kind of look alike. And two, I mean, I feel like it's, you know, intuition, you would know. Because when she does break down and cry and Yuki, like, holds her, that felt like a knowing moment. She's like, take care of my brother. And she's like, yeah, Itaru-san makes me feel moi-moi-kun too, you know. That san on the end of it makes it seem like that's taking it to the next level. Mm-hmm. And then she flashes back to the mom saying, I'm so happy I gave birth to you. And we see the moment where we do get to see a glimpse of adult Daru. He does look a little thinner, so I don't know. But him with the camera. Uh-huh. Yeah. And at that point, that's when Suzaha finally breaks down because, like, seeing her mom and talking to her and it bringing all these memories up, like, I'm glad that the mom gave her the hug. I'm so glad that the mom gave her the hug because that was needed in this episode. Ugh. And Daru just sitting there. And if anything is going to convince Daru to build the time machine, this is it. This moment here where he's like, I got two hands. I got a wife and a daughter that I need to try to save and give a better life to. Yep, let's build the time machine. Let's build the time microwave. Let's go. And here's the thing. Again, Okarin is missing all of this. He is missing all of this. And I feel for him. I do. But, So, yeah. And then he takes a picture on his cell phone of the two of them. And I just love that she gets this photo with her mom. Like, and she's laughing. And it's like, they literally have the same face. Girl, come on. I love this. Like, And I feel like if Daru needs to tell Okarin, like, why he's doing it, he can just pull out this picture and be like, this is why I'm doing this. Because these are people I care about. And I'm not going to abandon them like you're abandoning Mayuri. Am I wrong? Ooh! So anyway, we get that. And then, you know, they end up going and I love that shot as she's like, thanks, Mom. And she, like, turns around. And yeah, girl's like, I am going to build a time machine and we are going to go take Okarin and treat him like Shinji from Neon Genesis and he's going to get in the time machine. He will get in the time machine. He has no choice. And then we go back to Kagari on the rooftop, which I'm like, girl, what? Why you there? Why you looking ominous? Why you looking down at them? Girl. Anyway, so this was a really fun episode. I really enjoyed this. This was a lot of fun. It ended a lot. It was a very nice, cohesive kind of together episode that encapsulated kind of why we're doing these things and why this is important for Daru and the others. So I'm really happy that we got to see like a bit of motivation in this episode too. And it was a nice self-contained story. I appreciated it. But now it's like, Okarin, you gotta be friends to Mayuri. So I feel like we're gonna need to address that at some point. But anyway, I'm excited to hear your thoughts down below about what you think about this episode, and we shall see. So anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and I look forward to hearing your comments down below as I'll be back with episode 16 very soon of Steins Gate Zero. And I'll see you then.